I am very excited to interview our next guest. It's actually been a year since I interviewed him because he was performing at Carnegie Hall as Frank Sinatra. But I missed the show because I was already booked out. This year, I get to see the show. It's at Bergen Pack, and it's going to be Sunday, December 11th at 7:30. We are talking with Bob Anderson. Bob, how did you start performing Frank Sinatra?
How did I start doing it?
Yes.
First, how are you, Suzanne? It's nice to see you again. Yes.
Thank you.
Well, it all started with his daughter, Nancy Sinatra, who started me in the business. And it was that I was only 21 years old. I happened to take a trip out to, I was going to Las Vegas, and I went in and I saw up on the marquee up there. Anyway, I walked in. I'll keep it because I'll talk too long about this because I'll just make it a little shorter because it's a long story. Anyway, I walked. I just happened to come into the Sahara Hotel when Nancy was working with the Everly Brothers. They got in a little argument, and I was not in show business or nothing. I was just, I was just out there and took a trip to Las Vegas, and I was sitting in the in the showroom, and while they were rehearsing, and all of a sudden, the Everly Brothers, who was opening for her, got in a big argument. And the next thing you know, she came out. They said something to her, and it didn't fit right. So they got fired, and she was going to open in 4 hours. And she called everybody. She called Mac Davis, Glenn Campbell, Vic Damone. Nobody could come over there that quick. And I got out of my seat, and I walked up there, and I said, "Excuse me, Nancy." Nobody. They looked at me like, "Who's this guy? How did he get in here?" So I said, because I wasn't in show business at all. I wasn't even singing hardly. So I said, "Nancy, I'm a singer. I can do whatever you need." And I wound up opening that evening at the Sahara Hotel with her. And from that point on, we became friends and everything. And I met the family, and that's how I met Frank Sinatra. And throughout, I've done a number of shows with him before. I read at the Dunes Hotel, a couple of them in Las Vegas. I did, like I said before, I did something what we were talking about with Henry Kissinger. And we did it there in New York. And, I mean, what a thrill it is. He's one of the greatest performers, obviously, of all time. But you know what's funny that people don't understand it? They won't buy it until they hear it. Just yesterday, again, on Seriously Sinatra, Frank Sinatra said, in his opinion, the best singer of all time that ever sang in the music world is Tony Bennett. Mm. So he put him right past himself, and he said that Tony Bennett is the number one guy of all time. And I gotta agree with him that way. I mean, Sinatra is just as good in there and stuff, and those guys are phenomenal.
Wait, I have to stop you. So. Yeah. You're known as pretty much the Rich Little of the music world.
Yeah, I'm an impressionist, right?
You also do Tony Bennett. You do Dean Martin, Sammy Davis. Who else do you do?
I do a lot of them. I do Bobby Darin, Mel Torme, Nat King Cole, Robert Goulet, just, whoever I have to do. Tom Jones was a big one for me. He and I toured all over the UK together. And here's what I don't do. I don't do anybody just because they have a hit record and it's out there and stuff. If that's not what I really want to do, I don't do that. I don't jump on somebody because their record was sold. Well, today there's lots of records being sold today that, I think that they're not in the bag where I'm going. My whole goal here, my reason for doing it, when I wrote this show, I started this show in Las Vegas. I went to the, here's what I did. I said, I'm going to write a show that's going to have the younger generation leave their high-tech world behind and step back and have a chance to hear and see what the greatest entertainers of all time were. And because they don't want to miss that. See, they're the ones that made this country the entertainment capital of the world. not just of Las Vegas, where that's where they are today, the younger generation, and it kind of took over there. But I went in and I ran for a year at the Venetian Hotel. And I had, my full 32-piece orchestra, and it was wonderful. And I said right there, they asked me to stay when we started. I said, I'm going to go for 1 year because this town is no longer Frank Sinatra's anymore. It's like, I don't know, it's all the younger generation. And, so we did it, and it really went over tremendously. And that's what really moved me on to Carnegie Hall. And I mean, what are you going to beat? You can't beat that one,
I know.
Carnegie Hall. No, I know.
That's fantastic. Excited. I'm very excited that you're coming to Bergen Pack because it's a smaller venue, so it's more intimate, and we're really going to get to see you perform. How did you get Frank Sinatra's charts? That is the most intriguing part of this whole thing to me.
Well, one of my, before I started working, I worked with Nancy for a while. She stopped the business and everything because she had miscarriaged a couple of times, and her husband was with her on when we were working at Lake Tahoe, and their doctor called and says, "Yes, she has to quit. Okay, you got to go home." She went home. So I just started in show business, and she says, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know." She said, "You want to stay in show business?" I said, "Yeah, that'd be cool." So anyway, she helped me get things going. And I met a guy when I started doing it in show business named Vince Falcone. Vinny Falcone was Frank Sinatra's musical director for more than 12 years. And he's always been a real close friend of mine, me and my family. When Frank Sinatra was working with Vinny, every once in a while, he would say, "Vinny, come here." He said, "Here, take this. I want you to take this chart home." And he said, make a copy and bring it back tomorrow. Okay, but hang on to it. So he did this, and Vince was working with him for all these years. And when they settled, they went different ways because Sinatra wasn't working very much and stuff. He went to Vince and he said, "Vince, the reason I gave you these is because I want you to keep my music going." He said, "Nobody else has this stuff." He said, "I'm going to give it to you." And he gave his charts to Vince, not all of them, but close to about close to 75 different charts, which will carry you for a long, long way. I mean, all the great ones he did, the ones he was doing at the time with Vince. So when I went into Las Vegas to work at the Venetian, when we were over, Vince got very ill and passed away. And before he did, right there, before he passed away, he said, "Bob, I know the old man will want you to have this." So he said, "I want you to take this here. And, we were using it all the time, but you take it and now it's yours." So I have Frank Sinatra's. I mean, they're legitimate. They're not, a lot of people say, "Oh, we have this, we got stuff." No, you don't. The people, I have it though. And what it is, Steve Lawrence had it. They would give it to Steve Lawrence. He gave it to some of those people. But I have it. And it's all Nelson Riddle and Don Costa and Billy May and Axel Startle and all these wonderful composers. I should have brought it over. As a matter of fact, I got it over there with the pictures, but Frank Sinatra's name's on it and everything. And so I have it now. So when we write that out, the other thing we do is Vince Falcone's son, who is now one of my guys that he's a lead trumpet player and stuff, but he's been working with Lady Gaga for about 6 years. And she said, she came over with Tony Bennett to see my show a couple of times and said to him, "Danny, whenever you got Bob's doing a show with you, I understand. Go with him." I mean, that's how nice they are. Tony Bennett said, and that's the way it's got to be. It's got to go with, he's always got to do that. He's got to be with Vince or that's not going to work, So Tony Bennett, what a great guy Tony was too. I mean, he and I hit it off so well together. I did a lot of things with him together. And we after shows in Las Vegas, after the shows in Las Vegas, they used to have places where the entertainers would meet. Now, I was just, like I said, with 21 years old, I came back there to Las Vegas, and I was the youngest guy to touch that golden age of the Las Vegas Strip. And the guys accepted me. Dean Martin, Sinatra, Tony Bennett, all those people, they accepted me, and I started working in Las Vegas in the showrooms I was about 22 at that time. And I got to know them all very well. And I would do shows with them. I toured through the UK with Andy Williams, with Jack Jones, with Tom Jones. I mean, I've been from Russia to China. I've been all over the place. Not China. I'm not going to go to China. But so I mean, I've been very blessed to do this, and I do it because it's so great. Because Frank Sinatra was so good. I mean, a lot of people. The biggest problem that I had when I started doing this was that so many of the young people would come out and come to their whatever, they'd put their hat on sideways, and they muddied the water up so much because they came out. I'm not putting them down. I'm just being actually what happened. They didn't know anything about Frank Sinatra, but they saw that things were really going with him, so they wanted to get into business. They put a hat on and they'd sing and they didn't really even know the songs that well. But wow. It's a tough thing to try to be Frank Sinatra. What I did, how I studied for it real quickly. Tell me this if I'm talking too long. You just go ahead.
I'll stop you.
And you're right. Okay. I used to get up at 5:30 in the morning. My home. I was working with Andy Williams in Branson, Missouri, and I would get up in the morning, and I would put just makeup on me. I'd put a tuxedo on. I had a room that was all mirrors and stuff, and a great sound system. And I used to work in there. People were sending me music of Sinatra so much, and I studied everything was mirrors. Everything was mirrors, and I studied him for 5 days a week for a year. A year I put into that to just to get into him, to talk his thing, just to go into the when somebody loves you, it's no good unless he loves you. All the way, you had to do it and sing it where he's singing it at and do it all right. And that's why I'm saying before, the younger generation has never been around that, and they really didn't understand that and do that. And I hope they do. I hope they keep his music going, because that's really what I'm really trying to do. He was just the king of all of it. And you know what people don't know about him too? He was a great guy. I mean, really a nice guy he was. And the first time I met him, it was just, he was really, really nice, coming up and punching you in the arm over here or something. How you doing, kid? And it was just a really a nice guy. And he gave a lot of money to a lot of families that needed it tremendously. And we know that in the business, there's a few that do. And I'm not trying to say that I know things like that others don't. I'm just saying I know this through Vince Falcone and other people, that anything that Frank Sinatra, he had a jet that his plane would fly over to Germany, and it would pick up some problem with some little kid and bring him all the way back to California. And that is where he would be in the hospital there. And whatever the case was, Frank Sinatra covered it all and paid for it. And he used to take care of people all over the place like that. Andy Williams was the same way. He did the same thing. He didn't want anybody to know that. They just kept it to themselves. And I've sat around and I happen to know that, one through Vince and then Andy. And I knew that because Andy Williams and I worked together for 4 years at his theater. And that was a great thrill too. Andy Williams and Tony Bennett, Sinatra, and Sammy Davis, and Dean Martin, and Nat King Cole, and Billy Eckstine, and Buddy Greco. All these guys were tremendous. The music they sang was just so fantastic. It can't be just forgotten. And my reason for doing this is to keep that music alive as long as I can.
Have you been told yet who I'm bringing to your show?
Yes, and I have. It is Dionne Warwick.
No. I'm bringing as a guest to your show, Maria Coburn, who She starred with Frank Sinatra in Dirty Dingus McGee,
Oh
And
my goodness.
and she dated Frank.
Wow. Well, how did I hear something about
Dionne Warwick.
yeah,
They,
Dionne
they,
Warwick.
she's on the board, but I don't know if they can get her. I know they were trying.
Somebody wrote me something saying that she's coming.
Oh, she
I
is
hope,
coming.
oh, I hope she does. I mean, she was, you know, when her and Sinatra sang that song together on her show. I can't remember what the name of the song right now, but it's You and Me. We wanted it all. Remember that? Passion without pain, sunshine without rainy day. We wanted it always. And he sings it with her. Oh my gosh. There's nothing better than that one.
What is your favorite Frank Sinatra song?
If I had to put, if somebody said, listen, you better do this or we're going to slap you around, I'd say, okay, I'll go up with one. And it's called All My Tomorrows. Today I may not have a thing at all. Remember that? Except for just a dream or two.
Yes.
I got lots of plans for tomorrow, and all my tomorrows belong to you. It's from that movie that he did with that little kid.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever that was, I can't remember the name of it. But that was the movie, and he'd be walking along with that little kid that was with him all the time. And but you know, it's hard to pick the best song because the next time I pull something up here, I'd say, oh, no, man, can't beat this one. This is the best one. He had so many best songs. It's not that he was a one guy that, you know, just one time he tried it and that was the end of it. No, some of them have taken him 30 times. He'd run through the song. Let's do it again. Run it again. I mean, 30 times he would go through the song to get every little thing exactly correct. And a lot of people say that, oh, no, Sinatra did that. Just he didn't need that stuff. He did that, said, that's it, and walk away. No, he didn't. He could not be as good as he was and act like that. He was just that great.
Favorite question to ask people.
What?
If you had to choose one song or a series of songs to describe who Bob Anderson is, what would they be?
Well, that's very tough. You see, and I'll tell you why. What would they be? They would be songs very similar to they wouldn't be impressions. Okay, I'd put them in. I have my regular act is not what I'm doing with Sinatra. My regular act is where I go out and I'm a jazz pop singer is what I am for myself. And when I say jazz, that I'm saying the way that Sinatra or Bennett or Jack Jones or people like this would play their music. A lot of people say, well, that's not jazz. Yes, it is jazz, but it's not, you know, jazz like whatever, but, you know,
is it very syncopated?
Yeah, no, yes, it's, you know, well, I'll tell you, here's what I would do. I start off as myself. Okay, I always do something, and I might start off with the song. I hear music when I look at you, a beautiful thing from every dream that I ever knew. You know, I'm singing these songs, and I'll sing about 8 songs as myself, and then I go in and I say, ladies and gentlemen, tonight I'd like to also, if you don't mind, I'd like to do a few reenactments of some of the greatest artists of all time. The singers that are no longer with us, maybe a couple of them are, but they're singers whose music should never be forgotten. And let me try to do some of them for you tonight. How about Johnny Mathis? And look at me. And I'd go to Johnny Mathis. Or Robert, if ever I would leave you, Robert Goulet. I would do all these people. Robert Goulet was the greatest baritone singer to ever step on a Broadway stage. And he should not be forgotten either. So I do all these as them. I do about 10 or 12 of them. Then I end the show as myself again, doing some really beautiful tunes. And I enjoy that so much. And now, I would not have even done impressions if it weren't for Merv Griffin. I went to a party at his home one night, right in the beginning, after Nancy Sinatra had her miscarriage and stuff. I had nowhere to go and stuff. Joan Rivers, Nancy called Joan Rivers and said, we help Baba. Well, she was in her workshop place there in Beverly Hills, which is really just a small room where it sat about 60 people. But do you remember the song that
I've
Sammy
actually
Davis?
been in that workshop.
What's that?
I've been in that workshop.
Okay, well, do you remember the song that Sammy Davis and Frank Sinatra did? He went, when the ball band do da, when and Sammy, when the seashore goes to the sea, Sammy, you'll never get rid of me. And he sang, me and my shadow, all alone and feeling blue, closer than flies are there. Okay, at the end of that song that he was doing, Sammy and Frank did it together. It says, da 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 do ba ba do da do da. We'll stop at the Little Club too, and it was called the Ye Little Club. And
Yes,
Beverly
I
Hills.
think it.
That's it, right? That's
I
it.
knew that
Okay.
club.
Okay, great. Well, I went in there with Joan Rivers, and I was there with just a piano player myself. It only sat about 60 people, as you would know. It was a very small room, and it was a little, when you walked in, it was a little bar right there, but not big at all. Well, Sammy, Dean, and Frank, and any of those people used to go hang out in there. So I was up singing, and Merv Griffin came in the door. And, I was already on his TV show before a couple of times. And that's a whole nother story, and you don't have time for it. But I already did things at the Merv Griffin show. And Paul Anka brought me back on there. And Nancy Sinatra did. And he said to me one day, Bob, we really love having you on the show, but you have to have a reason for being here. You've either got to be in the movies or write a book or have a record. I said, I understand that. I left and had gone away to New York to study a little bit. And I got the phone call from Joan Rivers that Nancy called her and come back. It was 6 months later when I was at the Little Club with her. And so Merv Griffin happened to walk in. And after I was done with that little performance I did with Joan Rivers, he said, Bob, I'm Merv again. I said, yeah, I know. How are you, buddy? So I said, listen, I'm having a party at my house on Sunday. It's my 50th birthday party. I'd like you to come to it. So I said, oh, wow. Okay, great. And so now I could go. Okay, we didn't get to that. So I go to this party. I open the door, and here is Elizabeth Taylor. Here's the Beach Boys over here, Kirk Douglas, Jimmy Stewart, Henry Fonda. All these people are at his home. And I felt like I was an idiot. I didn't even know what to do in there. I was so nervous when I walked into his house. And I walk in there, and some girl comes walking across, running across the thing, and jumps on me like this, says, will you dance with me? And it was Mia Farrow. And I said, yeah, I'll dance with you. So all of a sudden, Merv Griffin starts playing the piano over the side. Nobody was really there. Some was listening, some weren't, but Merv was a real good piano player. And so he's playing there, and he says, Bob, come over and sing something. So I go and sing, and out of nowhere, I had never done an impression in my life. I never did impressions in my life. This was new. He went to the first thing, and he said, what are you going to do? And that's when he played Misty. And all of a sudden, I just went into, look at me. And I'm looking like this here, Miss Help Us. And he goes, I'd sing the song. When it was over, he turned and he says, I didn't know you could do impressions. I said, I didn't either. And now this is a long story. I'm not going to go that far. But I said, I didn't know I could either. He says, what other ones you do? I said, I don't know. So he plays San Francisco. And I just turned right into Tony Bennett. And I went, I left my heart San Francisco. And I started doing the whole song. I did it. And right next to now everybody's in the room now. They left everything. They're coming to hear this. And right next to me was what's his name? He talks. He's from England. And he goes. Well, this is really something. I can't remember this. I've never heard anybody do this. And not Henry Fonda.
Robin Leach?
No.
Cary Grant.
Yes. And so he was standing right there, Cary Grant. It was Cary Grant. And so I couldn't believe it. He's right next to me. So right at the back of the room, is Robert Goulet. And he's standing there, he said, "Hey, kid, can you do me?" So Merv starts playing, and I go, "If ever I would leave you," and I sing this song. It wouldn't be in summer. So I do it. He runs over to me and hugs me. And Merv said, "You are, and now you can come back to my show. You have a reason for being there." He said, "You're going to
I hate to say this, but our time is up.
Well,
I want to continue this conversation. Can we do another video later on?
Yeah, we absolutely can. So I went on the Merv Griffin show, went on to the Johnny Carson show, the Mike Douglas show, and I'm the only guy in the history of the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson that was on it in the same week. Over his 20-some years, I'm the only one that was ever on the Tonight Show twice in the same week.
Wow. You can catch Bob Anderson at the Bergen Pack this Sunday at 7:30. I'm going to be there. Maria Coburn's going to be there. And Bob Anderson will be doing Frank Sinatra.
That's right. I was going to say, I'm going to be singing more than I'm talking. Okay, I'll tell you that.